California's premier casino resort. Cache Creek is the place to play a hot hand on our world-class gaming floor, indulge at our luxurious spa, or catch a live performance from your favorite acts. It's all here, just a short drive away. This is your time to cash in at Cache Creek Casino Resort, official sponsor of your Golden State Warriors.
The roar of the crowd. The sweet sound of a swish. Nothing beats being there live at Chase Center for the game, Warriors fans. And Ticketmaster is your official gateway to buying and selling the best seats all season long. Ticketmaster verifies every seat sold, guaranteeing that getting into the game is a layup. Be there live to defend Warriors ground this season with seats from Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. Ticketmaster, the official marketplace of the Golden State Warriors.
What makes a buzzer beater so great? The energy, the spontaneity, the choice to just go for it. Last-second flight changes aren't so different. Whether it's pulling an all-nighter, checking off a bucket list item, or extending your trip for some R&R. At United, we think last-second calls are yours to make. That's why we don't charge change fees, ever. This is what an airline looks like when good leads the way. United is proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors. Exceptions apply for certain international flights. Forever applies to flights within the U.S. and between the U.S. and Mexico or the Caribbean.
What's up, Dub Nation? It's Steph Curry. I love the sound of the Warriors crowd, so I've asked for them to help with this Rakuten commercial, the app that gives you cash back at thousands of stores. Yep, Rakuten is hooking you up with a special gift if you make a qualifying purchase of $25. And Rakuten offers cash back at Warriors Shop. All right, now it's a little too much. Visit rakuten.com/Warriors.
Warriors fans, it's time to dub the vote for the best all-star ensemble on the California coast. Captain Clay can bring the wave. The heartbeat, Dre, keeps this band jamming. You know the party will have a splash. If Poole is invited, Wiggins will bring that smooth sense of style. Loon can conduct the tunes. And don't forget the reigning all-star most valuable performer, Stephen Curry. Dub the Vote presented by Google Cloud. Vote for your favorites at warriors.com/dubthevote.
You've been listening to the Golden State Warriors Audio Network.
Presented by United Airlines.
This has been a presentation of Odyssey Sports. For even more coverage of your team, download the free Odyssey app and listen to your favorite stations, shows, and podcasts.
That's a wrap.
Yo, that's a wrap. It was an amazing experience. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope we got some laughs, some good entertainment.
This is Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
DiVincenzo will throw it in. Draymond Green orchestrating. Thompson curls right. He's not open. Pass to Poole inside. Layup is up and good. He scored it with a second to go. Zaire Williams will throw it in on the baseline. Waiting, looking. Throws into Bane. Bane will just chuck it down the floor. It's no good. The Warriors get the win. Poole went backdoor on the baseline. 122-120. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable, but unbelievably brilliant. The execution, the design, and the decision, apparently, from Draymond Green to call the final play, even though the Warriors hadn't practiced it in months. It all adds up, though, to a thrilling Warriors victory as we welcome you back inside Chase Center. John Dickinson with you. It's Warriors wrap-up here on 95.7 The Game. 122-120 is the final. Opening up the phone lines here at 888-957-9570 to react to this one as the Warriors get back to 500 and one of those nights where it's difficult, frankly, to look around and decide where to start. And I think you have to start right there at the end. But even a little bit earlier than the final play, the Warriors at times looking like this was going to be a slog. At times looking like they were gonna go down by 8 to 12 points in this one. At times looking as if the turnovers and the fouls and some of the late game issues that have plagued this squad were going to bite them in the rear end once again. But the Warriors able to rally over the final 5 minutes, a 22-9 run to finish the game up by 2, and they outscore the Grizzlies in the fourth quarter 32 24 to win this thing by 2 as the Warriors get back to the 500 mark. A lot to get into here at 888-957-9570. A night where you knew that there wasn't going to be a lack of motivation. You knew there was going to be a hell of a lot of intensity in the arena, and you knew that the Warriors were going to try and bounce back in a big way and continue to send a message to the rest of the league, but I think more specifically to the Memphis Grizzlies that if these two teams play in a playoff series, and it's all jumbled up as far as where the Warriors are, but if these two teams are playing in a series, that the Warriors have the upper hand, and the Warriors have the upper hand mentally. The Warriors have the upper hand in terms of being clutch in the big moments, and that the Warriors can find a way, even on nights where they don't play well in many areas, to just kind of hang around, to just kind of hang in the game and never feel like any lead is fully safe, and that you're ready to pounce and steal one, as the Warriors did with the final 5 minutes, and doing just enough in so many different ways. Even if your superstar, Hall of Fame, Finals MVP player gets himself ejected from the game in the final minute, as that was another wild scene. And I think maybe even more wild than Steph Curry getting ejected were the circumstances by which he did end up throwing his mouthpiece off of a Jordan Poole shot, as he takes a 30-footer with Curry available to receive the pass in a critical moment, and Poole casts off, and basically Curry loses his mind on the shot selection, running back, starting to maybe lose the mouthpiece, and just decides to chuck it, and the official right there immediately with the technical foul. And at first, everybody's wondering what the heck's going on. Like, what happened? Did Curry get a technical foul for arguing with the official? And then the announcement made over the PA that he had been ejected from the game for one technical foul. Now, there are certain rules in place to where a player can be ejected without picking up a second technical foul, and throwing your mouthpiece is one of those. And so for everybody that's thinking, and we can have a discussion about whether he should have got kicked out of the game. How can you kick an MVP out of the game? How can you kick the star player on a night where this is a nationally televised game and everybody's got eyes on it, and it's such a terrific competitive game between two rivals? How do you kick the best player in that game off the floor in the last minute? Well, the NBA rules, unfortunately for Steph, and I think unfortunately for the viewer and the listener here at 95.7 The Game, is pretty clear cut when you look at it. And Madeline Kinney of the Bay Area News Group was the person who went inside the officials' locker room postgame. Anytime there is something controversial, as was the case tonight, a reporter can be selected to go in and ask a question, or ask a couple of questions of the crew chief. And so Madeline Kinney of Bay Area News Group was selected to do that tonight, and she went in, and Sean Wright was not the official who ejected Steph Curry from the game, but he is the crew chief on this crew tonight. And so she asked him just explain Curry being ejected, and Sean Wright said, quote, "Stephen Curry takes his mouthpiece and throws it into the stands with force. As per rule, that is an automatic ejection." So you got to know. And at that point, it doesn't matter if Steph was mad at Jordan Poole. It doesn't matter if he was mad at Petraitis, the official. It doesn't matter if he was mad at somebody in the third row or at the dirt, down the block at Oracle Park. It doesn't matter. Once you throw your mouthpiece, and he wasn't directing it at the official at all. I think it was just frustration from potentially taking another L and the shot that Jordan Poole had taken in that situation. And obviously everybody knowing Jordan Poole's had some late game issues, and thinking that an opportunity to steal that game from down 11 with 5 minutes to go was slipping away, he lost his mind, which I think a lot of Warrior fans can, in that moment, completely identify with. I think Warrior fans have been losing their mind over some of the ineptitude of the Warriors in some of these close games for the better part of 3 months now on this NBA season. So to see Steph in such a human moment just kind of lose it there for a minute. And I'm one that's been known to have a temper tantrum or two, kind of out of the blue from time to time. So I can relate to it. But as far as the rule goes, you throw your mouthpiece into the stands, whether you're directing your anger toward another player, your own teammate, your head coach, or the official, it's an automatic ejection. So at that point, the rule is the rule. Whether there should be a little bit of leeway at that point, it's tough because I don't think you want to give leeway to the officials in situations like that, because then they'll pick and choose as to this. You don't want to put the officials in a position to where they're trying to get in somebody's head and trying to determine intent, and so you have to have the rule be clear cut. Regardless of all of that, and I wanted to make sure I laid that out and explained it with the quote from the crew chief. It did just suck for the game. Just the fact that Steph was not in that game down the stretch, because it was such a terrific game between two rivals who just played an absolute, just gut-wrenching, just knockdown, drag-out playoff series, and now they've played here for the second time in the last month, and the Warriors continuing to get the upper hand on the Grizzlies. But to not see Steph be able to potentially do something special in the final minute of a game like that, it just sucks. But the rules are the rules, and the Warriors, that could have been really costly in a bad moment where the Warriors were really in desperate need of a victory, but they're able to get enough stops down the stretch, enough critical offensive rebounds, limit some of the turnovers, and then a brilliant out-of-bounds play with Dante DiVincenzo hitting Jordan Poole on the cut. It looked like the Warriors ran some actions in front of Jordan Poole with Zaire Williams defending him, and it basically was a clear out to draw the attention of the defense in front of Poole, to give Poole an opportunity to back cut and try and get position with DiVincenzo hitting him. So really, really well-designed play. I know in the post-game press conference, which we'll play for you coming up here at 95.7 The Game, Steve Kerr did allude to the fact that Draymond called the play, and it was a play that the Warriors hadn't run in a practice in a couple of months, but executed it well enough. And Poole cleverly being able to get away from Zaire Williams, and a brilliant pass from Dante DiVincenzo, and an excellent finish, because Zaire Williams is in the game at that point for his length and for his defensive ability, with the Warriors trying to obviously win the game on the play before the ball went out of bounds to the Warriors. And the Warriors have been very good over the years at beating teams with pretty clever inbounds plays, and they wind up winning themselves their 24th game of the season, their 24th win of the season, by doing just that. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. A lot of heroes tonight for the Warriors. We'll get into that coming up here. We will get to Al in Alameda as well in just a moment, but first let's do our station ID here for the top of the 11 o'clock hour.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app.
All right, John Dickinson back here inside Chase Center. Warriors 122, Grizzlies 120 as the Dubs get a win, even their record to 1-1 in the homestand. They also break the losing streak on the home floor. Have been a 4-game home losing streak to fall to 17-6 after they had been 17-2. But the Warriors get back on the winning ways, and we'll give you an update on the standings here, because it's still really, really jumbled up. We'll let you know, with a lot of teams in and around where the Warriors are in the standings playing each other tonight, this win even more huge And we'll tell you how huge coming up here because it is even more jumbled. And the Warriors, for being 24-24, they are right there if they can get on even a little bit of a run, even a 6-7-2 kind of a run over an 8 or a 9 game stretch, and the Warriors may wake up with the same seed that they had last year and need as many as 8 to 10 to 12 fewer victories than they had last year to get it. So Al in Alameda here at 888-957-9570. What's going on tonight, Al?
Good evening, John. Yes, before I go to my main subject here, wasn't there once upon a time they had that issue also with Curry tossing his mouthpiece before?
Al, I'm going to jump in, and I'll let you finish here, Al. I'm going to jump in right now. This was the third time in Steph Curry's career that he had been ejected. All 3 times have been for a mouthpiece. All 3. Third ejection. Tonight, there was a game on October 21st of 2017 at Memphis, and the one that everybody remembers, Game 6 of the 2016 Finals. So you had Game 5 with Draymond being suspended. You had Game 6 back in Cleveland. The Warriors were getting run out in that game, and Curry was ejected. And then, obviously, they ended up losing Game 7. But, yeah, that series that the Warriors lost to the Cavs, Game 6 in Cleveland for throwing his mouthpiece. Go ahead, Al.
Okay. Curry got out. Okay, he was pissed because of Jordan Poole. But look who made the last shot on winning game, Jordan Poole. But if Curry was there, you know what? They would guard him, 2 or 3 defender on him. But knowing Curry, he would do sometimes he would do a turnover. Okay, but it was a blessing right there. He got ejected. I don't want that. But that was like, a blessing, like I said. So who was the winning point there? It was Jordan Poole. So let's give Jordan Poole credit, despite he was a little iffy there again. Okay? And I cannot talk first about this double team. Every time they double team Clay or Curry, something's got to be out there more shooting. Okay, but you know what? Overall, tonight it was a good game. And I loved it, despite we won. And John Moran and those guys, the crew, oh, my God, they're getting in my blood. Thank you for taking my call.
They get everybody fired up, and they get the Warriors' attention, which I think is the biggest thing. Thanks, Al, for the phone call. And, you knew the Warriors were going to fight and scratch and claw and grind and not give up no matter the circumstance. It really felt like the first 5 games of that holiday homestand where the Warriors were so undermanned, and yet they kept competing. And there were lengthy stretches of a lot of those games where it looked like, the Warriors are going to lose this game. Like, the Warriors are playing terribly. The defense is bad. They're getting hit on the boards. They're turning the ball over. But they stuck with it from a competitiveness standpoint, and that allowed them to remain in a lot of these games and be able to win a lot of those games. And those wins have held the Warriors season together to the point where they are 500 and not much worse at this point than 500, especially when they had to play the 11 games without Steph Curry in the middle and back half of December and on into January. But you look at funny thing from post-game, so Jordan Poole's heading down toward the Warriors' locker room, and Steph Curry's waiting back there to celebrate. And one of the videos that kind of went viral after the game is Poole seeing Curry there to congratulate him after the game and after Curry had been ejected. And Poole takes his mouthpiece and just chucks it right at Curry, and then they hug it out following a big-time Warriors win. As far as the lineups and everything else, the Warriors finished tonight with 4 guards and Draymond Green, and I thought that was an interesting way to go. And Steve Kerr making that adjustment, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. getting his 6th foul and fouling out of the game allowed the Warriors to be able to do that and have more success, because Jaren Jackson Jr. really did make an impact on this game defensively with his length and his physicality and just size. But for the Warriors to be able to spread it out with Draymond and have DiVincenzo out there with Poole, have Curry out there with Klay Thompson at the end up until the point in which Curry was ejected from the game, that ignited the run, which gave the Warriors a chance. And I think, there are times where we go back and forth on it, the fact that the Warriors are small, but the Warriors can also win playing small and be highly successful and spread the floor and get a lot of open looks and have space opened up to where they could drive to the basket and really get the ball and the game moving at a pace to where even the youthful, exuberant teams like the Grizzlies can't quite keep up in the same efficient manner that the Warriors do. But the collective component of it for Golden State is they got to be able to rebound. They got to be able to fly around and collectively rebound the basketball. And the Warriors were able to do a good enough job of all of that down the stretch to not get wrecked by it and have the ability to come back. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson here on Warriors Wrap-Up from Chase. Warriors win at 122-120. Let's go to Chris in San Francisco next on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Chris.
Hey, JD. I just want to ask a question. I've been noticing the past couple of games, Klay has been visibly upset and frustrated, and now tonight you could see Steph was visibly frustrated and upset. Have you through their careers? I don't think I've ever seen them this visibly upset towards either teammates or the situation. Do you recall anything?
No, I think it comes with, from my estimation, and I don't recall a lengthy period of time, and I think part of it is the Warriors were always good enough from about 2015 really to 2019, from the pre-Durant and then once Durant came, like they went through troubles from time to time, but they were always good enough to where they would win enough to calm things down. When you're winning a lot, it calms down frustrations. You can still be frustrated about a lot of different things, but you're winning, and at the end of the day, you may have been really mad about something in game or whatever, how you're playing or a teammate or the system or whatever, the opponent, but you win. And when you win, you're able to let it out and it doesn't fester. But this Warriors team this year, I think, they found themselves in a unique position. So that was kind of the 15 to 19 portion that I laid out there first. But then I think there was the 2-year stretch where they would deal with frustration a little bit differently, but they also knew they couldn't win a championship in that, they were 15-50, and then the next year without Klay, they end up in the play-in tournament. And there were some times where, that season I think actually looked a little bit like this season. Klay obviously wasn't a part of it, but the expectation wasn't to win an NBA championship that year. And I think everybody had an understanding that team was probably not going to be good enough. This is very much different. And I think the reason for a lot of the frustration is the fact that there are, these guys are fighting for one more run at it. It's one more bite at the apple. And I think there's also frustration from different agendas. Like, I feel like everybody's got their own different agendas. Jordan Poole wants to turn himself into a star and validate the $30 million average he's going to be having beginning next year. And Klay is trying to prove to everybody that he's back and that he still is very much worthy of another big payday, even though he's making 40 large this year and another 40 for next year. And you've got Steph, who I think knows that he's good enough to contend for championships moving forward for this year and maybe another couple of years, but is looking around and wondering whether the rest of the team is good enough. And I think there's some frustration there. And then you've got Draymond with the Poole punch. You've got Draymond with all of the speculation about whether he'll go somewhere. And then there's the cloak of Bob Myers. And is he going to be going somewhere? And the reporting on that today, that there's other suitors and he may end up being a free agent. So I think all of that is interesting to look at. And I think it all compounds. And when you don't win at the level that this Warriors team is used to winning at, I think that's when it explodes. And I think that's when the frustration becomes more visible. So it's a long-winded answer, and I appreciate it, Chris. It's a long-winded answer, but I think it's a lot of different things that aren't being masked by winning at the level that these guys are used to winning at. And then that's when you start looking around the room and looking at people a little bit differently. And so I think that's been pretty prevalent for this team this season. Now, can they wipe that away? Can making a little run here in the last 2.5 months of the season and getting into the playoffs as a 4-3 seed give them the wherewithal to cast that stuff aside and try and make one more run? It remains to be seen, but I do think there are more potential for fractures for a number of different reasons as they try to navigate these last 2.5 months and get to that end of the regular season. 888-957-9570. Let's keep it rolling on the phone lines. We got people that want to talk. And next is Robin in San Francisco. Hey, Robin, how you doing tonight?
Hi, JD. Can you hear me? Because I went to the game Sunday and I lost my voice. So,
oh, wonderful. You sound great, Robin. You always sound great, loud and clear.
I like what you had to say and sum that up in terms of what the last caller asked you. I felt like he was alluding to Poole. I really want to take up for Poole because people always want to scapegoat him because he does a lot of things, right, that, in the late minute. And then they want to blame Wiggins, anybody but the core. I just want to say this, JD. It was a good game. I really have nothing to offer. I just think that it came down to who executed the best. But I want to say this about Steph Curry because they're talking on social media about justifying his actions. He wouldn't have did that if Poole would have done this. And I just want to say this. There's something called accountability. Look it up in the dictionary, Warrior fans. And Curry should know better. No matter what what is he going to go around and throw his mouthpiece out the next time another player messes up? I was quite frankly surprised by him throwing his temper tantrum. So, lay off Poole because Curry should have knew better. He's accountable for his own action and his own behavior. And stop giving the golden boy. He is my golden boy too, JD. But he don't get a pass for everything. And don't blame Poole for that. He's not 2 years old. He's a grown man and 14 years of however in this basketball league, and he should have knew better. Peace out. Go Warriors.
All right. Thank you, Robin. Well said. Robin's line open at 888-957-9570. And, yeah, the previous caller, Chris, was absolutely talking about Jordan Poole and some of the reaction to some of the mistakes and some of the play, whether it's a lack of defense or shot selection or whatever it is. But yeah, you cannot blame Jordan Poole for Steph Curry getting ejected from the game. It's an automatic ejection if you throw your mouthpiece. It doesn't matter why. And we ran that down, and he knows that. I mean, the other thought I had was could you imagine if Draymond did that? You imagine if Draymond did that and got kicked out, what we'd be talking about? Now, again, it's a different situation, and Draymond has had more issues along the lines of temper and things like that throughout his career. So it is a little bit of a different conversation, no doubt. But yeah, Steph's got to own that one. And, if the officials keep him in the game in that particular situation, that's not exactly right either, as much as I personally think it sucked for the game to not have Steph in there down the stretch. It's the rule is the rule, and it's a rule, frankly, that's kind of one of his go-tos when he gets frustrated. He starts messing around with that mouthpiece, and it bit him there in a situation where he was pretty frustrated. All right, let's keep it moving. Wando on 280 next year on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Wando?
Hey, JD, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, my man. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Good. A couple of quick things before I get to my main point. Love when you're hosting on 95.7, whether it's this or during the days. You're really great. And quick point before I give Poole a little, because I disagree with a couple things that you, Al, and the lady just a moment ago. I forget her name, even though I hear her all the time.
Yeah.
What she was saying about Poole.
Robin.
I do think a lot. I do think a lot of Warriors fans will blame. Yeah, Robin will blame Poole, and I do because in that instance, really, it's as obvious as it gets. Minute to go, give Curry the ball. Nobody in the arena is shouting shoot at that point. And like I said, I want to give Poole a little credit because he did make a great effort to get a second chance on a offensive rebound late there. But I think a lot of Warriors fans, myself included, are extremely frustrated with the number of blunders that we see from Poole, and that one was just as obvious as it gets, where you can just hand the ball to Steph and let him do his thing. Quick question before you cut me off. Is it $30 or $40 million he's going to be getting starting next year? And thanks, JD.
You got it. It's an average of 30.25. So the next 4 years, beginning with next year, because he had 1 year left on his rookie contract. That's this year where he's, I think, 3.9 or 4.9. All of a sudden I can't remember if it was 3.9 or 4.9, but it's in that range. And then next year it kicks in where the average over the next 4 is 30.25, I believe. If you add them up, it gradually goes up over the course of the 4 years. Look, there's no doubt it's a blunder. There's no doubt that a lot of Warrior fans are ticked off by a lot of the blunders. It's no doubt that Steph had a right to be upset, even as a leader in the face of the franchise and the guy who probably should have had the ball in his hands in that situation, but you can't throw the mouthpiece. Like that's the difference. Like you can't, because if you throw the mouthpiece, you're out of the game. Like no exceptions. So at that point, like get ticked off, but yell at him if you want, but you can't take your mouthpiece and chuck it into the stands. And I get it. Maybe Steph was just so wound up in the moment that he chose to do that as opposed to making a scene and going at Poole. But, at the same time, you can't throw the mouthpiece. So I think that's where the accountability and all of that comes in, not to absolve Poole from what was a clear-cut blunder. Jeff in San Jose next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Jeff?
Hi there. A long-time fan, long-time listener. Been watching the Warriors since Jim Barnett was making jumpers.
Nice.
I think it's more Curry's fault, not just for the rule, but for sheer hypocrisy. I've watched 90 to 95% of the Warriors games that are on forever. And I've seen him jack up on a 5-second clock with a 3-point lead many times. So it's pure hypocrisy for him to get mad. Unless he thinks, hey, my shooting in 5 seconds is okay and his isn't, which I think is bullshit. Excuse my language.
Oh, thanks for the call, Sterling. Make sure we wipe that out. Those listening on Twitch and YouTube and the stream will enjoy that. But 888-957-9570. Sterling, let me know if we got to wait to take another call there for just a second. I'm not sure. I think we probably have to wait a little bit. But, yeah, thanks, Jeff, for checking in. Oh, we're good? Okay, we're good or no? Okay, we're good. We can keep going. But, yeah, Klay Thompson's done it as far as the ability, taking quick shot. Remember the shot in Dallas, I want to say in 2013. I mean, this was before the Warriors were a championship-type team, and Mark Jackson was coaching the team, but they got an offensive rebound, I believe, with about, I think it was with the shot clock off, and they were up by 3, and Klay shot it and missed it, and the Mavs ended up getting a shot down the stretch. So that, but when you're that, but that's just it though. The flip side to that is, and I think a lot of Warrior fans would clap back at the last caller and say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, Steph does have more leeway than Jordan Poole in a clutch situation, especially given the way Jordan Poole's played in clutch situations lately. So there is some wiggle room to be had here, I think, both ways as it pertains to this. 888-957-9570. Rich in Fremont as we go back to the phones here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Fun one tonight. Good ball game. Dubs beat the Grizz 122-120. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, what's up, JD? Thanks for taking my call. 2 things. First is this. What if Steph did what he did to ignite the team? I mean, after all, we're looking at a person who's been in the league as long as he's been. He knows the rules. He knows what he should and shouldn't do. And yet he still did it. This makes you think, okay, you know what? If I do this, maybe this might ignite the team to play better as a team. And you know what? probably not a bad idea. The second thing is this. If, for whatever reason, Brooklyn and KD don't get this done, what if they go to KD and say, you know what? You did good things here. And guess what? We have something we can put together where we can bring you back here. Does KD all of a sudden look and say, you know what? I look at my tenure. I look at the NBA. I look at, what I can do and not do. What if I go back to Golden State? Because he's been in Brooklyn and it hasn't worked out.
Look, Rich, I think let me jump in there because we got a few other people. As far as the KD part goes, we got to see how this thing ends this year. And the other part of it for me is I don't think the Warriors have a package good enough to get KD. Because I think, Moody and Wiseman don't have a lot of value right now, and Kuminga is somebody who played well tonight, by the way. We haven't mentioned Jonathan Kuminga. Overall, a -16, so good things weren't happening when he was on the floor, but I thought he did have some moments where he played pretty well, and again, finishing around the basket, couple of unbelievable dunks, knocked down a corner three. I thought that the plus-minus, not necessarily to the eye test, a true indicator of how well Kuminga played, but I don't think a deal centering around Kuminga at this point, Moody and Wiseman, would even sniff, even if you put Wiggins in there, sniff being able to get Durant back. So that's more of a conversation, I think, for June and July. As far as Steph doing it to ignite the team, I don't think your superstar franchise Hall of Fame player does that to ignite a team with a minute to go where he puts himself in a position that he's not going to be out there for that final minute. So when you look at it and how it worked out, ironic that Poole is the guy that ends up with the game-winning shot, given he was the guy that had ticked off Steph. But I don't think we can give Steph the benefit of the doubt for that one tonight, as much as he is a deity in the Bay Area. And rightfully so from a basketball standpoint, of course. 888-957-9570. Gabriel in San Francisco next here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, Gabriel?
Hey, how's it going? I actually wanted to talk about Kuminga. I thought he was great on the floor. He's showing a lot of maturity now, making decisions in space. He's kind of taking on a Draymond handoff screener, cut to the basket role, and then his defense is great, and he just adds that verticality. I'd like to see him play more down the stretch of games. And, yeah, I think he's a keeper. The other young guys aren't really progressing as much as we'd like, especially Moody. Wiseman can't seem to stay healthy, but I think we have a gem with Kuminga on our hands, and I can't wait to see him flourish more. So, yeah, the plus-minus wasn't great, but I think it's great tonight.
Yeah, like I said, the eye test, and thanks, Gabriel, the eye test said he played better than the plus-minus did. And look, plus-minus for a single game isn't always a true indicator of whether a guy played well or not. There are some different factors when you look at an individual game that can be more important. I thought he was better than those numbers tonight. And yeah, he is doing more little things, moving the ball, screening. He can get the Warriors some inside twos, which I think they need, as opposed to just casting off from three and shooting jumpers. And if he can continue to develop into that on-ball defender, he can be really valuable, I think, especially come playoff time. And so I think you look at the Warriors right now, and they're in a spot where, so far so good in his couple of games back, and the last two in particular, going for 20, going for 13 tonight. And I do think he's going to get chances to finish some games if he's playing well. It is going to be tricky, though, because, when the Warriors have everybody, with Steph and Clay, Draymond, and Wiggins, some nights it's going to be Poole, some nights it's going to be Looney, some nights you could make a case even for DiVincenzo, some nights you could make the case that it's going to be Iguodala if Iguodala's ever healthy and back and playing again. And so Kuminga finds himself as being one of those many, many options that Steve Kerr has as the fifth player to try and finish things up. Jonathan is next here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, Jonathan?
Well, I wasn't able to talk to you when I was here for the Hornets game on the 27th. A lot of stuff happening both with that game and Jewish Heritage Night, plus there was a kind of another late game, but this one was a classic. I'm still holding my breath from that ending. I thought I was going to see my first overtime game here until Poole got that layup and then got that last stop at the end. But I'm still proud of them for hanging in. I got to say, though, the turnovers were way too much tonight, and they were very sloppy. It wasn't looking good. So this is, for never being able to go to a playoff game, this is the closest to experiencing one, I think. I think Chase Center finally reached Oracle Arena level. This was the loudest I've ever heard Chase Center, and it was rocking tonight. I think literally Warriors fans carried this team to victory in the fourth quarter because it looked like they had nothing going into the fourth. And then magically they just kept chipping away, and lo and behold, they pulled it off. I'm stunned, but I'm relieved, and hopefully that's a good omen going into not only Friday and the rest of the season, but for the Niners on Sunday. And I saw Papa before the game, and
thanks. Appreciate the call. We'll let you go on that note, Jonathan. Always fun checking in with you here. Yeah, it was a great atmosphere tonight. It was a tremendous atmosphere tonight. The people were excited. The Grizzlies bring out the best, I think, in the Warrior fans. I think the Grizzlies bring out the best in the Warriors themselves. And you knew this was going to be the kind of game that I thought, frankly, the Grizzlies didn't make the Warriors pay for all of the fouling and all of the turnovers early on. They never led by more than 10 in this game. It was a 10-point game with, about 5 minutes to go, and the Warriors found themselves, they kept coming. This has been a game where they had gotten down 16. They wouldn't have been able to come back, or if they had gotten down more early, but the Warriors always had an answer, always fighting back, always able to continue to make a run, and it felt like for as badly as the Warriors played at times, that the Grizzlies really couldn't push the lead up high enough to where the Warriors weren't going to have a shot. And you knew the Warriors tonight were going to keep hanging in there and keep fighting and keep trying to win that game in a desperate type mode. Now, I do think big picture, you look moving forward, and there were a lot of times tonight where the Warriors it just didn't look great. It just looked like a team that was disconnected. And, a lot of the bad moments from a lot of these games over the course of the last week since Curry's come back, the last couple of weeks now, I guess it's been 2 since Curry's come back, where this team has just looked disjointed. And the defense is good in stretches, bad in others, the turnovers, the shot selection. Sometimes they're able to outshoot it and hang in a better spot because they're shooting the basketball well. And so the one lingering thing that I will say before we get to a few minutes of Coach Kerr here is this is another win, and you feel good about the win, and you love where the Warriors are in the standings and all of that. But this is another game where they had to work their tails off just to barely win, and those take a toll. And how can this Warriors team get on a run good enough to maybe get into that top 4, but not completely wipe themselves out over the last 2.5 months of this regular season to be able to do it? That's something to keep an eye on, because all of these wins that the Warriors have earned in the last month and a half have been same kind of games where it's just not perfect and they got to expend so much energy compared to other years that's something that eventually could take a toll at the back end of a regular season, or once you start to get into a playoff series where you got to beat teams 4 in a row, 3-4 different times if you're going to get all the way to an NBA championship again. All right, let's hear a couple of minutes of Steve Kerr as the Warriors win this one tonight over the Grizz, 122-120.
Steve, when it comes to Steph's ejection, did you feel like the punishment fit the crime there, or is that a moment where Steph has to know better than to throw the mouthpiece?
I didn't see what happened at the time. So, when the ref called it, was confused. And then the coach told me he threw the mouthpiece down out of anger, and I guess he throw it into the stands. So I think that's automatic ejection. So he knows he can't make that mistake again. But I was really proud of the guys that they fought through and executed down the stretch and got us the win.
Steve, it's been some like heroin moments for Jordan at the end of games. Talk about how he executed down the stretch. The out of bounds play looked like a really good cut, good finish, and it was a big moment for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think JP has been much more solid the last 5-6 games. He had a stretch there where he was trying so hard to make plays, and he was making a lot of turnovers, taking a lot of bad shots, and I think he's been much better. Just shot selection, decision making. Doesn't mean he's going to be perfect, but I think he had 3 turnovers early in the game and didn't have any the rest of the game. Thought he fought really hard defensively, battled out there. So I thought he played a great game.
What did you like most about the way this game finished? I mean, not just technically, but in terms of just the emotions that were there.
Yeah, I mean, to win the game after the Steph ejection was great. I liked the execution down the stretch. I thought we got good looks on offense, and defensively we did what we needed to do. They scored the 2 with 6 seconds left to tie it, but we didn't leave the 3-point line, which was a priority, and so we made them execute, and Ja made a great pass. I think it was Clark who got the dunk, but I just thought we battled, and as poor as our execution was in the first half and as scattered as we were, it just looked like we settled down better down the stretch and made better decisions.
And what was your reaction when you saw Jordan fire up that 30-footer with a full shot clock?
With Steph Curry open next to him? We won, Monty. Let's focus on the positives.
You went like hyper small with like 5 minutes left, 4 guards and Draymond, and then go on a 14-3 run. Why did you make the choice to go that small, and how big within that was Jaren Jackson's ejection?
Yeah, I mean, we had a little stretch there where we were not getting anything offensively. I think we had both bigs out there with Loon and Draymond, and our defense is obviously better with those guys out there. But Memphis really makes it tough on us spacing wise because of the way they guard us and just their size and physicality. So we went small to try to create some space and open up the game a little bit more. Dante was playing well. He was doing a good job on him. So we just decided to throw that lineup out there. And I thought Jaren Jackson's 6th foul was a big moment in the game. It allowed us to play smaller for a longer stretch.
You mentioned the defensive execution down the stretch in the third. You guys allowed them to score 42, and then just 24 in the fourth. So what was, I guess, like the big shift in the third quarter and then changing that into the fourth?
I just thought we showed a lot of grit and toughness in the fourth. I thought Steph found his groove a little bit, and when he finds that, it gives our team confidence. We play better at both ends. And the third quarter was tough. They got going downhill at us. They had a ton of free throws, 37 for the game. But every time we play these guys, the game's back and forth, and there's a lot of runs in both directions. So we were confident we could come back and win.
Another tremendous scoring night for Jonathan Kuminga. Steve, 13 points on 5 of 6. What have you liked about his game since he returned from injury?
I liked JK's aggressiveness, obviously his athleticism and strength. He gives us a dynamic that we don't otherwise have, getting to the rim and finishing. And he knocked down a 3 as well. I mean, he's just, he's competing and he's learning and he's growing. And this is all part of it. There's ups and downs, but you can see the arrow is trending upward with JK. He's doing a great job.
The Warriors are going to need Jonathan Kuminga to continue to have that arrow trending upward as they head toward the back end of the season and on into the playoffs. I mean, they're almost counting on him. It's going back and forth with my guy Steiny a little bit tonight. And he made the point, and by the way, we're going to have a Warriors Weekly podcast that's going to drop tomorrow, sometime between probably 11 and noon. Look for that for 95.7 The Game. And he made the point that the Warriors are, like they need his offense. They need what he's bringing to the table on that end, his ability to put pressure on the rim and be able to attack at the basket, and they're just kind of leaning on him at different points here in these last couple of games, and I think that is a good point and an accurate one. The fact that Kuminga is somebody that's going to be, I think, the eighth man in the Warriors rotation as we look ahead toward the playoffs, if he continues on the trajectory that he's on right now. I mean, Steph and Clay, Draymond and Wiggins, Kevon Looney's going to be a part of it, and then Jordan Poole is the 6, I think DiVincenzo the 7, and Kuminga's that next guy at 8, I think right now, barring some kind of move from the outside to add, and then, is Anthony Lamb the 9th? Do they make him playoff eligible? Do the Warriors go get somebody else that does a little bit of what Anthony Lamb does, only maybe with more size? And, is there another big man potentially that's involved in the equation? And we didn't talk about James Wiseman tonight, but Wiseman was healthy and active and available to play tonight and didn't play tonight. So, again, as Steve Kerr said to Monty Poole, hey, it's about positives tonight. We're not getting into some of the negatives. And look, it's not really a big negative necessarily that Wiseman didn't play in this game, but I don't think it was necessarily surprising that Wiseman, even coming off the injury, was out on the court, although JaMychal Green really struggled in this one tonight. So I think keep an eye on Wiseman because it's been so difficult for him to build momentum coming back from injuries. It's almost as if he's had to start the entire process and build up back toward being a remotely effective player in small stretches every time he's come back from one of these injuries. So how long does it take to where he can get back into the trust of the Warrior coaching staff to be able to be back on the floor, even in a limited role to where he was? I mean, playing 3-4 minutes a half for a couple of games before he got hurt. That was viewed as such a big step, and now it's almost as if he's starting over from scratch. Moving forward here, so something to keep an eye on. Also, the comments from Coach Kerr about Jordan Poole being much more solid, and while not a perfect player, I would agree with Steve Kerr as far as that goes. And just to me, it's more about the mindset, and the mindset was not on point when he took that deep 3 that ticked off Steph Curry and basically led to him getting so mad that he threw his mouthpiece and got kicked out of the game. But I do think Jordan Poole's starting to find a little bit of an in-between ground where he's in the starting lineup again, and I think that allows him to be a little bit more relaxed, frankly. And so, we'll see moving forward. I know he's been a maligned player by the Warrior fan base, but you listen to the head coach there, much more solid from Jordan Poole. And yeah, the win is the most important thing. Xfinity Mobile text line, we've had a few people say that. Winning after the ejection, as Kerr mentioned, but just getting a win, period. The difference between being 24-24 right now and being 23-25, it just has a much different feel. While only being one game in the standings, you just don't want to get to where you're a couple of games under 500, and you're fighting to just get back, because you get a couple of games under 500, you may be 13th in the West at this point, and you look at how jumbled up it is, and the Warriors now with the win moved from 10th to 9th, and there were a lot of teams playing each other tonight among the glut. Essentially here in the Western Conference, and you start to go through it. Minnesota and the Pelicans played each other. They're in that glut. Minnesota won tonight, 111-102. Portland and Utah are in the glut, although Portland's been dreadful lately. They got a win tonight against Utah, which dipped Utah back below 500 at this point in the season. Oklahoma City got beat by Atlanta tonight. They had been playing better. The Kings lost at home to Toronto, 113-95. The game wasn't even close in the second half. and Toronto's going to be in here on Friday night to face the Warriors. And they're capable on any given night, while not a great team by any stretch, of giving a conscientious game. They held the Kings to under 100, and the Kings had only been held under 100 one time this season. Lakers got another win. So the Warriors' win moved them from 10th to 9th. But as you look at the standings, the difference between 4th right now, which is the Pelicans, and 13th, the difference between 4th and 13th is 3 games. The Pelicans in 4th are 26 and 23. The Lakers in 13th are 23 and 26. The opposite record here, just about 50 games into the season. Warriors at the 48-game mark. So the Warriors are 9th, but they are a game and a half out of 4th, and they're only 3.5 back of Sacramento at 3rd. And I think Sacramento is still, I'm going to say this every night, as well as they've played, as special a season as they're having, and they've earned every bit of it, they are still, I think, a team that you look up at them being the 3 seed. If you're any one of these teams that believes, whether you're the Clippers or the Warriors or the Mavs or the Suns, any one of these teams that have a little bit of pedigree in the playoffs, you look at the Kings as a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 17 years, and you think they are exactly the team that maybe isn't going to fall completely out of the playoffs, but you definitely think there's some regression to the mean for Sacramento to a point where maybe they get a little bit closer to that 500 mark, and the 3 seed is in play. So that's the point of the conversation. The 3 seed is very much in play for a lot of these teams that believe that they would, even playing poorly, have a better record than 27 and 20 right now, which is currently where the Kings are at. So yeah, you look at it, and the 4 seed is absolutely on the table, and I think because the 3 seed is Sacramento, a relative unknown here in the final 30, 35 games of the season, they are the kind of team that I think can be had as far as, maybe it's not the Warriors, but one of these other teams if they can get on a run. So I think that bodes some optimism. But the flip side to that is, hey, you win 5 in a row, you might be 3rd. You lose 4 or 5 in a row, you might be 13th and in big trouble very quickly, but it is still very much jumbled up along the Western Conference. All right, that'll do it. We'll call it a night on that note. Appreciate everybody. An hour, commercial-free, just rolling through it. A lot of really good phone calls tonight. Appreciate those on the Xfinity Mobile text line, those watching on YouTube and Twitch as well. As I'm John Dickinson, Warriors get the win 122-120. Thanks to Sterling Bennett and everybody in our San Francisco studios. Great stuff there. I will be back with Warriors Live coming your way at 6, as it's the Warriors and the Raptors before the Dubs head back out on the road. Again, Warriors Live at 6 Friday night, and then the Warriors and the Toronto Raptors from Chase on Friday. And we'll have Warriors wrap-up and, of course, a Warriors This Week for you on Saturday. Join me and Whitey Gleason with that. So that'll do it. We'll talk to you on Friday. Dubs get the win 122-120, and you heard it right here on 95.7 The Game. Good night.
Streaming only on Peacock. From the mind of Rian Johnson, the writer-director of Knives Out.
Miss Gale, you've got this gift. Always known the truth.
I only know if something is a lie. The real trick of it is to figure out why.
Natasha Lyonne is Charlie Cale.
It wasn't an accident. I think there's been a murder.
You watch too much Dateline.
A new 10-part mystery series.
Wolves on my fender. I gotta keep moving. I have been kind of a death magnet.
Poker Face, streaming January 26th.